Today we're learning how to solve rational equations, so we need to figure out how to cancel out rational exponents. So how do you get rid of an exponent when it's a fraction? If you look at x to the 1/2 right here, and you remember that that's the same thing as the square root of x, it's just like asking yourself, how do you get rid of a square root? Well, the opposite is to square it. So if we square the 1/2 by multiplying it by 2, then 1/2 times 2 cancels out because that equals positive 1. 2/2 is 2. So the rule is to cancel out a rational exponent, you multiply it by the reciprocal. And when you do that, it will equal positive 1, and that's what makes it go away. So to cancel out this 3/2, we would multiply it by 2/3, and the 2's on top cancel, and the 3's on top and bottom cancel, and it equals positive 1. To cancel out this negative 9/10, we'll multiply it by negative 10/9. That way the two negatives multiply together and get positive 1. And last, to get rid of the 13/84, we would multiply by 84/13, and it would be canceled out. So in the first row, we look at the equation and we want to get x by itself, so we need to cancel out the 4/3. So we'll multiply it by 3/4, and we need to do the same thing on the other side, which is to multiply the exponent on the 16, which is really a 1, but is not there, so we'll multiply it by 3/4. So really you're just raising 16 to the 3/4 power. You get your calculator, type it in, you type in 16, and then your caret 3/4. If your calculator doesn't make the exponents go up high, then you need to put the 3/4 in parentheses. And when you do that, you'll get 8. On 1b, we need to multiply by the reciprocal of 2/3, which is 3/2. So we'll raise 25 to the 3/2. So you type that in your calculator, and it turns out to be 125. Make sure you can type those in the calculator and get the right answers. On 1c, we have negative 2/3, so we need to multiply by negative 3/2. And we'll raise this to negative 3/2. Well, what does that negative mean? It means the 144 is going to go underneath the fraction bar to the bottom, and the exponent will become positive 3/2. So if you type in 144 to the positive 3/2, you'll get 1728. You could start off by just typing in 144 to the negative 3/2. It'd give you a decimal, and then you would just need to math enter it to get the 1728. For these next problems, we're still solving for x, but we have to get rid of some other stuff first. In the first one, since the parentheses are around everything, before we can get rid of that plus 16, we need to get rid of the power that's being applied to everything. So to get rid of the 3/2, we'll multiply it by 2/3. And then since both of those are no longer to that power, we don't have the parentheses anymore, and we need to raise the 8 to the 2/3 power. So 8 to the 2/3, when you put it in your calculator, is 4. And now we can get rid of the 16, and x equals negative 12. On 2b, we will want to get rid of this power on the x and on the 16, but before we do that, we'll get rid of this positive 3. Since it's positive, we'll subtract 3 from both sides. So we have 64 equals 16x to the 3/2. Since that power is on both the 16 and the x, we need to get rid of that. So the parentheses will go away because the 16 and the x will no longer be to that power. So we also need to raise the 64 to the 2/3. And when you type that in, you get 16. So 16 equals 16x. Those are times, so we'll divide both sides by 16, and we get 1. Last example here, in this case, the power is only on the b. So we don't need to take the power off anything else except for the b, so we'll just get rid of the 10 first, because it's the furthest away. and that'll equal 256. Next, before we can get rid of the power on the b, we need to get rid of the 4 that's multiplied by it, so we will divide both sides by 4. And 256 divided by 4 is 64. Now we can get rid of the 3/2 power by multiplying it by 2/3, which means we'll raise the 64 to 2/3, and we'll type it in and get 16.